All right, I'm Bradley Thomas with the Art of Changing Your Life Coaching, and this is the Take Your Road to Freedom Summit, or Take the Road to Freedom Summit. And today my guest is Paula, how do you pronounce it, Gregorowicz?
Gregorowicz, but
Oh,
everybody calls
Gregorowicz.
me Paula G.
Paula G. And she helps business owners take charge of their time, productivity, and technology to help them build authentic, sustainable businesses where they have plenty of time and space to do what they love. Welcome, Paula.
Thanks for having me, Bradley.
Yeah, sorry about the last name there.
Oh, no one can say
it. I go by Bradley Thomas in the business world, and that's my middle name. And my last name is actually Finkeldie, and it's for the same reasons. Paula G, Bradley Thomas. It's just a lot easier to spell and remember. So yeah, I'm doing this whole summit, so I want to help people find their purpose, because it's my belief once you know your purpose, you can go further and faster in life because you know what drives you, and every decision from there is a lot easier. So why don't we jump into your story a little bit and tell everybody, what your story is, a little bit about your purpose, and we'll find out how you found it.
Sure. If someone asks me, well, what is your purpose in like one line, it's like I don't really know what it is. But one of the things that got really clear to me when later on in the journey, and I'll back up in a second, it's just that idea that because I exist, alchemy is possible, meaning because I do the things that I do and I am who I am, that I can help things be a better form of themselves. And so that can go back way, I can think of, when I was young, different things that led the breadcrumb to that. But ultimately, how I broke out into my own business was that I had spent 20 years in corporate America feeling like it was so far away from my purpose of wanting to really engage with life and love life and do new things and have new adventures and have space and time. It just wasn't working for me. So I spent many years unhappy, but then did a lot of personal transformation work myself, and then got the big aha, like, oh, wait a minute, there might be other ways to live a life besides just going to what I fondly call the cubicle of death to, every day, and feeling, just like dragging myself there. And so it did take a push to get me to start my business. I won't lie. It was never one of those entrepreneurial kids. I never had a paper route, a lemonade stand, none of that stuff. But I had started learning about my business and starting my business while I was working in corporate, and then my position got eliminated in a strange sort of way. We were reorganizing headcount, but no one was losing their job, but yet I lost my job. So it was one of those things very unique to corporate speak. But at that moment, I knew that was it. I wasn't turning back. So that was 7.5 years ago now.
Yeah, I think everybody's story about how corporate, a lot of times people get fired and they think it's the worst, and the common thread I see between entrepreneurs that get laid off, it's like that was their door that opened up for them, it was their aha moment, or a moment of kind of awakening, or being able to see the other side, or whatever you kind of want to call it.
Well, and a whole lot of trust, because the day it actually happened, I knew that it was going to be the best thing that ever happened to me, even though I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah. So you kind of came through there. So how are you describing your purpose now?
Well, I'd say my purpose now is really to help people. I really have this passion about wanting people to be who they are, in the sense that, especially when I'm working with entrepreneurs, we get so much well-meaning and sometimes not well-meaning advice of who we should be, what we should do, what you have to do, and helping people break out of that idea of that there's some sort of should involved. So to me, it's like, take your wackiest, most eccentric, all these things that, I really shouldn't like, and maybe this is strange and I shouldn't tell anyone about the fact that, I love pottery, or whatever somebody's thing might be, and use that in how you live your life. So I don't know how you sum that up in a in a catchy, purposeful phrase, but that's to me what it's about, because it's very intentional. Because we've got a precious and finite time on the planet, so let's let's not squander this.
Yeah, if I, to summarize that on my end is like just being yourself, like who you
Yeah.
are by
Right.
yourself, and being that with others
Yeah.
in just your friends, family, and especially
Yeah.
in business, and that creates more connection. It creates people see you as real, and when they see you as real, the business kind of like shroud, like you're just there to make money, kind of goes away.
Right.
And people are like, oh, I want to give. I have no problem giving Paula money and paying her because she's really trying to really help me, and I can tell
Yeah.
she's authentic in doing that.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
how I'm trying to run my business
Yeah.
too in my life coaching. And it's once you get over that hurdle or fence of trying to stop putting the false self in front of the real self, it's a lot. It's just easy. It
Yeah.
just comes
Well,
naturally. You're like, oh, I just got to be myself.
well, exactly. I've always had. I consider it a gift, but it hasn't always been a gift. Is the idea of what you see is what you get. Like I just don't put on airs, which didn't necessarily work so well sometimes in corporate and random other family things when you don't agree. But over the years, as I've matured, obviously, I've learned some tact that perhaps was lacking in my formidable years. But it was still, what you see is what you get, and
Yeah.
I think that there's, to me, when I work with somebody, whether it's my massage therapist, my yoga instructor, a business coach, whoever, I want someone who's I know has my best interest in heart. So for me, that's really important when I'm working with somebody, and I'll even tell people what they don't need, even though I could make more money if I just sold them what they thought they needed. But to me, it's about integrity and getting what they, what's most important for them.
Yeah. Well, if you're sitting down with a client and you're trying to help them, how do you help pull their authentic selves out of them? Maybe that's something someone watching wants to learn. It's like, how do I be more of myself?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it starts with listening. First of all, I want to listen to people, and so I like having real conversations with real people and understanding what's important to them. So I'll often ask questions that might not seem directly related to, like if someone comes to me, oh, I need a website created. Okay, great. We can talk about all those things, but I want to understand you and why did you choose this business and what do you want from your life? If we're setting goals, the life always comes before the business. People are like, well, I don't know if I can come to that workshop because I already have my business goals down, but I need to work on my life goals. And I'm like, no, they go together. Like
Mm-hmm.
there should not be two boxes because there's you going through your days. So I like to listen, ask some questions, and then really understand what matters most to them. Like for instance, I had a client yesterday I was talking to, and she was again talking about, well, maybe I need to expand and get more team members or whatever. I said, well, let's go back to where we started this journey. And we talked about your goals, and you're like, you don't want to build an empire. You don't want to build she works with like personal management and aged care management. You don't want to build a company where there's 20 people working for you, and you want, what do you really want? It goes back to she wants time to be a great mom, time to be with her husband, time to enjoy life, serve people really well, and get served in the process. I'm like, okay, well, you don't need to build a small empire. Let's come back to that root piece, because otherwise you build stuff that you're like, okay, I just built a scary monster that I didn't want in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's true, and that's kind of reflecting on my purpose and in my business. I don't want a giant scary monster to manage because then I'm not doing all the things that I really want. I want a business where I can travel. I might have a couple people I work with, a virtual assistant,
Sure.
or some, just a very small finite team.
Yeah.
And keep it like that. So I'm more mobile. And if you were my coach, you'd probably be telling me the same thing. Don't go out and build something big because it's not you. But if you are that, then then you get to steer them towards building that big giant scary monster where they get to be the what are they called, the puppeteer or whatever. So you took the leap, or like I guess we both got pushed. We got pushed to take the leap. Once you went through that discovery process, how did you come across, doing what you're doing now, and how did you transition into that?
Yeah, well, it was a bit of discovery, and anyone who starts their business and is in business for any length of time that tells you that they don't stumble their way and experiment and screw up along the way to arrive at where they're at, they're just lying. They're
Yeah.
simply lying to you. So a lot of the core of it came from the personal work that I did, like what's really important to me around the authenticity and freedom. I mean, at the end of the day, it's freedom, and money is part of that freedom because you can only be so free, at least in this country, if you're not making a living wage that lets you to do the things that matter to you. But
Mm-hmm.
how it's refined its way to where we are today is, in some ways, going back to my roots. So the website strategy and website creation and the technology piece goes back to my roots. I was always doing techie things ever since I was a kid.
Woohoo, nerds!
Um, yeah, a bit of a nerd, but not like the uber nerd. Like I never was a big fan of technology just because, oh wow, look, cool, shiny object. But how could it help me?
Mm.
Even back in the day of like the TRS-80 and all these really old things in the 80s, I was like, okay, that's really lovely, but how does it actually help my life? And does it make it easier? Because we could be consumed by technology, especially today. So that's how that piece went back to the roots. And then the coaching and consulting, the parts around, I'm doing a lot of work with people around profitability, and profitability is more than just the numbers. It's also about how you live your life and how you spend your time. I have a degree in accounting, so some of it goes back to my penchant for financial things, and combined with my desire for freedom and efficiency and process improvement, that kind of stuff that I did in corporate that didn't make a lot of meaning and success to me when you've got a gigantic manufacturing plant and you change one little tiny thing and you multiply that over a million times. It's like, yeah, it's a big savings, but I like it when I'm working one-on-one or in a smaller group, smaller business, and even medium-sized business, but not like a big conglomerate. You make a small change, it makes a big difference. It's a difference between somebody being able to spend time with their kids or not spend time with their kids, take care of themselves, work out things that matter to them or not. So it's a bit of coming back to the roots, even as we've evolved several times.
Yeah, I think what I got from that, or what triggered, is kind of having the balance in your life that you really want. And I think in metaphors all the time. And the metaphor that I was thinking when you're saying that is that you're taking different parts of things that you love and you're putting them all together to kind of build your business, and build something that you love, kind of like, if you will, like a recipe.
Yeah.
And you have the recipe, all the instructions inside of you, but you have to go through the uncovering process to kind of figure it out, if that makes sense. Makes
Yeah,
sense
it
to me.
does. Well, yeah, and we say the word balance. Well, I think kind of balance is a myth, because even if you're balancing, if you think about being in yoga, or I've been standing on these like balancing things at the gym and such, well, you're never really just static when you're balancing. There's constantly micro movements, micro adjustments. So we think of balance, or I should say traditionally, people write about, oh, work-life balance, and it's supposed to be this perfectly chunked off pie. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. It's a constant state of flux and readjustment. And then how does that work for you? Because sometimes you're going to be naturally out of balance. If you're training for a marathon, you're going to have more workout time than perhaps your regular workout schedule. If you're if you're dealing with a family, medical thing or something, well, obviously that's going to sway there. But can your business flex and work with you so that you can be with your life? And much like a recipe, it's not the same for every person. Some people want it a little more fiery. Some people want it
Or chocolate.
garlicky. Yeah, more chocolate's always good though. Never go wrong with more chocolate.
I don't know about chocolate and garlic, but I'm sure
No,
someone's
not
tried.
together, but yeah.
I'm sure someone's tried chocolate-covered garlic before.
That one.
Yeah, yeah. So I always like to go back and talk a little bit about failure, because I think you can learn so much from it.
Yeah.
What are some of the bigger points where you've kind of stumbled, and you just had a moment after you're like, oh my God, that's why this happened, and this is what I'm going to take from this from now on.
Well, when I first started my business, the irony of the whole thing was I was recreating what I already hated. So I was becoming the worst boss ever. And I had some pretty awful bosses in my time. And I always say, if you're self-employed and you're working for a jerk, you only have one place to look, and that's in the mirror. Right. But what I was doing was that I was, well, I'm going to work like heck until I reach a certain goal, and then I'll take time for what matters to me, was sort of the mindset I was running on. Except it was killing me, and it was, I mean, there's no there. Like, you never actually get somewhere and arrive and you're done. So I really had to learn how to, and it was not simple, to learn how to be more, have better boundaries, take more time off, trust the fact that, yes, you could be done at the end of the day. You don't need to work 24/7. And hey, even at the beginning stages of my business, if I want to go bike on a Wednesday afternoon, why not do that? That's part of why I got into business in the first place. And if you don't build your why and what you wanted in the first place now, you're not going to build it later.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know if that's so much as a failure. I mean, I kind of felt like a failure. But conversely, once I started loosening up and freeing that and creating more of what I wanted, then money can come in more freely too. Because when you're desperate and grabbing and panicked, you know, who wants to hang out with someone who's desperate and grabbing and panic and like a vampire? No one. So they actually don't want to hire you either.
Yeah, no. I think that's a really good point because, and it reminds me too. Like, I was working last night, and you know, I'm a nerd too, and I wanted to play. I got one of those new Live Scribe pens.
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah, and they're really awesome. I mean, if you don't have one and you have a need to have all of your notes online, it's awesome. And I'm going to use it with my clients. So when I take notes, I don't have to transcribe them and put them in a Google Doc anymore. I can just write them down and then they're just there. It's perfect. It's awesome. But at the end of the day, you know, I had watched Downton Abbey, and I was like, I'm done. But that little nerd inside me kind of wanted to. I wanted to still check it out because that nerd wanted to kind of play and see it, you know.
Yeah.
So I kept that frame of mind, but I didn't take it too far as to like, oh, I want to go downstairs now and transcribe it. You know, kind of a little bit of a balance of both. And I just gave myself a limit. And I think that's something, I don't know if you do it, but I definitely do, is just give myself like a time limit on some things. Like, okay, I'm only going to work on this for 50 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. And then as soon as it's done, you're done. You move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well, if you think about being productive, right? When was the most productive time, no matter where you ever worked? It was the last couple days before you went on vacation, because you had to triage stuff. You had to get uber focused, not jerk around. You got to get it done. You had a finite time frame, and you did it. And so applying that same technique without being frantic about it. We don't want to just create adrenaline and panic for no reason. But if you compress the time, you're going to get more done. Even if it's just focus time and you need to add more time later because something's taking longer than you originally expected. I don't know when that ever happens, of course. But, you know, if something's taking longer than you originally expected, you can add more focus time, but at least you're getting it done and you're freeing up more space. Because to me, I just need space, whether it's physical space, mental space, time in my calendar, in order to just be well and function well.
Yeah, it's I think if you can add in, well, if you can take a vacation after every day, that would be great. I don't think it would be as rewarding if you did it every day. But maybe, you know, someone can, you know, set their timer for 50 minutes and then have a little mini, you know, do something that you wanted to do, you know, like that makes you smile and happy, and then get back on the horse after that. So, any other failures that have come to mind?
Well, there's certainly plenty of them. I guess, I mean, anyone runs into them. I would say that the one piece of learning from things that didn't work for me as well as I had hoped is that idea of focusing on income generating activities. Like when I started my business, I was all about learning and taking classes and doing things that make sense for a business, but not making sense for a business that is in real need of cash flow now. So it was sort of like planting corn for next fall's harvest today, when in fact I need to eat corn tomorrow. So like long tail marketing strategies and that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
by doing that, I realized, well, gosh, I have no money now. I'm flipped out. And the long-term thing's not really working, because then you drop it all in a panic to then get money. So really being clear on that focus time of what is my dire need, what is my primary need, and focusing my time there, and then also peppering in the other stuff, because if you're only focused on current income generation, or, oh my gosh, now I'm really busy, let me just do client work, you're going to just keep going, beyond a roller coaster, just straight up, straight down, and just create a cycle of madness. So that was a big learning.
Yeah, I think you said something there that reminds me, like in my life coaching certification, there's different levels, there's, you get your certification, and then you can go on and be master, and then Uber master, and like all these things. And it's that there's almost that mentality of like, and for me, and I think other people probably have it too, is like you want to go and educate yourself so you can be the best at whatever you're doing. And sometimes, at least myself, and I still work through this, is that you're good enough as you are,
Yeah. And enough is enough.
Yeah, and especially with tech stuff, because there's tons of things you can learn, and you're like, oh, this new tool, I could do this, and this would help me automate my income, and this over here will take, I won't have to check my email 10 times a day, and it's just like the simple things is what I'm finding. Just do one thing simply, and then when you get to the level, especially like email marketing or something like that, it's like you can have all these big giant systems and have everything like automated, and it's incredible. But until you're generating X amount and you have a list of thousands of people or whatever, you don't need it. It's not needed. So don't worry about it. You get there when you get there.
I had some pretty refined, great automation that reached like 2 people. It's like, all right, well, I could have skipped all that time and expense, and literally when those 2 people did something manually, I could have manually added them to my list, or communicated with them. And I'm all for automation, but what about, volume? You need to have the volume and the need. And in addition, I think that personal attention is making a comeback, like actually getting an email from a real human being versus an autoresponder and an e-zine or something makes you stand out, because so much is automated, and everything's automated. You can't even call tech support or customer service without going through the robophone for
even this interview's automated. Robot.
Yeah, you're on the other side of the bridge, right?
Yeah, I'm in the jungle right now. I'm in the jungle. But yeah, the level of automation takes out some of the authenticity in conversations and takes that personal level out of, especially coaching. Just a lot of, if you add in the personal touch to someone, they're gonna, if you create a connection with someone, they're gonna stay with you for a really long time because they know you and they feel they know you. And I mean, if you're being authentic and true, you do know them, and you're gonna create customers for life, and they're gonna refer you people all the time, and then you just get to make money and be yourself. It's pretty cool,
That's cool.
So yeah, kind of winding down here just a little bit, and any let's shift from failures. Don't always focus on the things that we mess up on, but what are some of the things that you're proud of that you're doing right now?
That I'm doing right now. So I'm proud of having launched my redesigned website, right? Because even though I do websites for others, I was letting mine languish there for a bit. It was a little old. It was almost feeling like a leisure suit, but maybe not quite that bad. So in fourth quarter, I did that, and part of what I'm proud about is really just making the decision. I could try to keep all this stuff and rebuild it, or I can let it go and start new, start fresh with a more simplified site. So I was able to turn that around in about 45 days or so. And that's in addition to serving my clients and doing other stuff, right? Because obviously I can turn around a website project for somebody else, but for myself, it's a big deal. So I'm happy about that and just owning that simplicity. So to say, oh, I'm really proud about owning these little pieces of simplicity seems like, okay, yeah, that's sort of esoteric. But I can specifically see how simplicity, besides making my life easier, is that I'm able to focus. And in turn, when I look at how much time I've taken off and how I've worked and what I've earned, that there's actually a relationship between working less and earning more. So one of my talks when I speak to groups is the art of pain-free profitability, adventures in working less and earning more, because it's true. It can work. And it works for the person like you or like me that wants to have a great financial life, but they also have more in their life that they want to do. They don't just want to have their life revolve around their business.
No, yeah, I think that does make sense. Like, I'm not going to take a bunch of people on a half marathon,
Right.
even though actually that's what my coach does. I'm in a half marathon coaching group, but if I wanted to, I guess I could, but it just doesn't make sense for me,
Right.
So, and I wanted to kind of identify what just the natural occurrence. We kept talking about simplifying things.
Right.
And I think that's a really important part. Whenever anybody starts anything, especially if you're trying to be an entrepreneur, it gets really scary really fast because you take a step back and you see all the pieces and you're like, oh crap, that's a lot of stuff. I don't know about marketing. I don't know how to build my website. I don't know how to, it goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And I think some of the mistakes I made, especially as a geek and nerd, is that I have the confidence to do a lot of things, build a website, do summits like this. It just comes naturally, and I've just been doing it for a long time. But the biggest thing I learned too is just to keep it simple. Just focus on one thing, in your business. And you might have 10 services, but just do one until you master that, and then add in something.
Right.
Yeah,
because there's lots of things you can do. Like part of the ways where I've goofed up in the past is, well, I'll try to run this group program and try to do this and try to do that. Well, my numbers didn't support it, right? Because you need numbers in order for the percentages to work to actually arrive at people who are going to pay you. And I don't care, you can increase those numbers and be more effective, but I don't care if you're the most seasoned pro or the newest person. There's still a matter of so many people are going to be interested, so many people will actually show up, so many people will maybe take the next step, and wasting a lot of time there. Now, am I still doing some things? Yeah, absolutely, because I enjoy teaching small groups. I enjoy doing some of that, but I'm not focusing all my time there. I'm focusing my time on other things and just simplifying, because with technology, all you have to do is go to a few networking breakfasts, and all of a sudden you've got 52 different social media tools you should, of course, be using, because you have to use them, even though no one filtered it through your unique needs and what you want and your unique clients, but you have to, because otherwise you'd be a loser or something, right? So, but there's so much technology, but if you really look at it, there's like 52 different ways or 52 different apps that do the same thing. So don't choose something just to have a bunch of things in your digital closet or in your to-do list. Choose what's going to make sense, and then let's seamlessly bring these things together into your workflow, your style, and what you like and what you're trying to accomplish. So I've had to do that for myself as well.
Yeah, I think it's the thought that just came to mind was, if you look at celebrities, you have musicians, and they get to bring in their unique talents through their music, and then you have actors and actresses, and they bring their unique talents through that avenue, and they're completely different. You ask the two to try to be in each other's roles so they can be celebrities, and they're going to fail, And so I think it's just being in your own vein and going down that route, That makes sense. Okay, so as we're kind of winding down here, what is is there a piece of advice that you always give to just about everybody you meet or your friends or whatever comes up?
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite teachings is just to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because when you're a business owner, every day is uncomfortable. Every new thing is uncomfortable. So if you can't be comfortable with being uncomfortable, at least be willing to be uncomfortable, because otherwise you're not going to go anywhere or try anything new or even allow your most authentic self to shine, because that's can be uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable to stand up and be who you truly are, whether it's in a professional setting or personal setting, or or trying something new in travel or athletics or whatever your thing is. So to really allow that and be willing and forgiving and kind to yourself, so that you have the reserves and ability to be willing to be uncomfortable, because you can't do it all the time, right? You have to uh, allow it to be, and then rest. Work, rest, work, rest. There needs to be a rhythm there.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's you do need that rhythm. And for myself, like doing these interviews, the first set of them I did over the phone, and the first couple it was hard, and it just I've never been an interviewer before. But now I'm doing the videos, and I've gotten more comfortable with being uncomfortable, and it's becoming more natural and easy and the flow. And you once you step into that uncomfortableness, I think the biggest benefit is you learn to trust yourself and that you'll
Yeah,
figure it out, and you don't have to have all the answers
sure.
or all the questions to ask. You just be yourself, and then the
Yeah,
questions and whatever you're doing will come.
yeah.
Does that make sense? So,
Yeah, I mean, the more you do it, the more you trust yourself. It's like we were talking when we were talking even before this video about doing improv or other things. It's about trusting yourself. You've got to be there, be in the moment, and then trust yourself and be okay when you screw up too, because that'll happen.
yeah, it does, especially with improv comedy. It
Yeah,
happens all the time. But
yeah,
those are the moments that people really love the most. Is
yeah,
when that little thing that happens, it feels huge to you, like you really messed up, but everybody on the other side goes, "Oh, that was hilarious or funny,"
yeah,
or
yeah.
and it didn't look huge to them. They're just like, "Oh, that was great. We loved it."
Right.
You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Paula, well, thank you so much
Thanks for having me.
yeah, I appreciate it. So where can people find you and find out more about your new website and all the things that you
Yeah,
offer?
yeah. So thepaulagcompany.com. So the Paula, the letter G, and the word company spelled out.com is the home of all sorts of good stuff, and many, many blog articles and videos, and eclectically me. And if you're looking at, well, okay, how does my freedom of time tie into my freedom in my business, tying into how does that work with my profitability, so you know how to focus, because we've talked a lot about focusing in this call. If you go to thepaulagcompany.com/freedom, I've got some free downloads there that just might pique your interest, so that you can do a quick and easy assessment of where am I, what's working the way I want, what's not working where I want, and how do I focus this down so that I can get to the true meaning of the significance I really want to have with my life.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I had a question too. So who's your perfect customer? If someone's watching right now and they're like, I'm not sure,
Yeah, yeah.
should I, would I? Who do you work best with?
Yeah, I work best with, I tend to work with a lot of women, but I work with some great guys as well. But to me, the biggest is more qualitative, in the sense that, are you willing to invest in yourself? Meaning, yes, of course, obviously it costs money to work together, but are you willing to invest your time and energy in yourself? And are you willing to have a sense of humor along the way? Because I'm always cracking jokes and having good things. So there's that qualitative piece. And then I love working with business owners who've hit that growth spurt,
The
right?
cat just walked behind you, as you said. Be funny.
Yeah, Noah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, one of three. Anyway, sometimes they're racing back there too. Um, but the business owner who's hit that growth spurt. So it might be a solopreneur who hit that first big growth spurt, and now I need a website, or I need help wrangling. How do I manage all this? Or someone putting on their first team member, or it might be somebody hitting that first six-figure mark, or what. It's that growth spurt that makes you feel like, oh wow, there's like a lot happening here. Help me make sure that this is true to what I want, and to do it in the most expeditious way possible.
Awesome. Well, I think that's really helpful people to identify, and I, encourage people to go check it out and check you out.
I'd love to.
Makes sense, give her a ring, shoot her an
Sounds
email.
good.
So thanks, Paula. I appreciate you being
Thank
here,
you.
and you have a great day.
Yeah, you too.